Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Glad you could all be here. Um, I see in the chat some random geek said Trump is a fascist, and that immediately made me think of Eddie Murphy during Eddie Murphy Delirious, when which was back in the '80s, and someone in the audience yelled out, "Reaganomics sucks," and Eddie Murphy said, "Tell us something we don't know, motherfucker." That's my response to Trump is a fascist. Tell us something we don't know, motherfucker. But very true. Um, so, as usual, I will be answering questions that were submitted ahead of time by my wonderful Patreon patrons and channel members. So, if you are with me right now in the live chat and you have a comment or a question that you would like me to respond to, or most especially if you were planning on being generous and throwing in a super chat, which I always welcome and appreciate, please, if possible, hold on to that, whatever it is, until I get through the patron and member questions, because while I'm answering those, I will not be paying attention to the live chat. But once they're done, it's live chat until the end of the show. So, all that being said, let's get started with the patron and member questions. And there are a bunch of them this week. And the first one is from William Tucker, who says, last time it was noted that we have the chance to get you to read anything. Thanks, Dana. Thanks for putting that in everybody's head. That seems like horrible freedom for us. We know you like Superman and Batman. Any other favorites? Nigflot Blorny Quando Floon. Yeah. Oh God. I mean, I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man is probably my favorite Marvel character. I fell in love with Spider-Man really. In terms of the comics, I fell in love with Spider-Man in, I guess, my early 20s, when I got a couple of those Marvel omnibus editions, the fucking newsprint phone book collections where there's 20 or 30 issues like smacked into one. So I read most, if not all, of the original uh, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and then Stan Lee, John Romita run from Amazing Spider-Man in the 60s, and just absolutely fell in love with it. They're some of my favorite comics ever. That early run of Amazing Spider-Man with Stan Lee and Steve Ditko and then John Romita. So Spidey's a big favorite. And there are others, but I mean, there's a lot of questions, and I don't want to take up the rest of the night just listing my favorite comic book characters. But Soups and Bats and Spidey are probably the big three for me. Fred in Pacific Grove, California, new to Ensign's log, loving it. Do you and Jason, and presumably the ladies that will have joined you in my future, I'm only up to mid-season 3, do all the voices live, or are some parts added in later? I swear I've occasionally heard 3 overlapping voices, and they sounded so authentic, it's hard to believe they weren't all spoken at the same time. For the most part, it's all done live. There are specific instances where we will go back and lay in an additional voice, especially if one of us is doing the character. Like if say if it's me and Jason and we're playing our regular characters, but one of us, usually Jason, because he's the man of 1,000 voices, is playing another character in the scene. Sometimes when Jason edits it, like he'll overlay the voices so it sounds more realistic. But usually, if you hear us talking and you hear us talking over each other, and it sounds really realistic, like it was done live, it's because it was. Yeah. Jason does do a lot of post production on the show. He does layer in sound effects and, other stuff. But for the most part, the vocal performances are recorded live. We're all together on a Zoom call and we record it live. Dan, in Disco Season 2, Control nearly takes over all of Starfleet, and if I remember correctly, would have expanded into other territory as well. There are many other alien races in parallel Earth development in the Star Trek universe. Why is the Federation the only ones that has ever created such a problematic AI? In TOS and other series, we did see computers running planets, but they seemed content to only ruin the lives of a specific group with no plans for expansion. Other AI that do have expansionary plans are never connected to a system large enough to rule a planet. What is the best in-universe answer to why only the evolved and mature Federation suffers the level of hubris it takes to make these kinds of mistakes? Basically, if we are so smart, why are we so dumb? I am the wrong person to ask about in-universe answers because I don't care. I don't care. Um, I actually do think it would be kind of interesting. At least it's an interesting idea If like in a future episode or a future movie or a future season, if they wanted to do a season long story, if the threat was like it was like, let's say it is like an evil AI, but it, you know, it does come from another civilization as opposed to within the Federation. So Starfleet has to deal with it on that basis. That might make things a little different or change things up a little. Personally, I prefer those kinds of threats to come from within the Federation. I think that works better dramatically and it works better thematically because then it's an allegory for us. It's not, oh, look at, again, I've talked about this a lot as, you know, as Star Trek has gotten older and the perspectives have kind of shifted. Star Trek has gotten better at explicitly critiquing our society as opposed to um, leaving a large enough amount of removal that people could interpret it as, you know, generic or criticizing people who aren't like us as opposed to criticizing us. I think Star Trek should be criticizing us. So, you know, having the villain, having the threat, whatever it is, emerge from within on the show, I think is a good move. But as for the in-universe answer, I'm sorry, you're asking the wrong guy. I could not possibly give less of a shit. Faragrim, hey Steve, I won't be able to watch the stream live because I'll be off camping for my birthday, which is on the 22nd, but I figured I'd ask a question to enjoy your response when I get home. Well, I hope you enjoy the response when you get to see it. I know you've expressed your feelings about canon between shows, and I generally agree. I want a show to tell a good story, not be forced to fit into a mold made by writers 40 plus years ago. What are your thoughts on the changes to the visual language of Star Trek? If one does strictly insist on canon, Pike's Enterprise makes no sense technologically with TOS. Do you ever think they are going too far with the visual changes? Klingons come to mind. Thanks for reading this. Short answer, no. The changes in the Klingons in Discovery took me a couple of episodes to get used to just because they were so different. But I always recognized that that was my issue to get over. That was not any fault of the people who made the show. They didn't do anything wrong by making the Klingons look different. It was just a matter of I have to get used to this is the way the Klingons look now. And within a couple of episodes, I did get used to it. And that was just how the Klingons looked in that show. And it was fine. No, I have never had any problem with any of the changes to the visual language of Star Trek. Yes, if we interpret the show literally, Pike's Enterprise does not match up to Kirk's Enterprise at all. I don't care. It's a fictional television show. Like that's the way I look at it. It's a work of fiction. It is set in the same universe. It is set in the same timeline. The Strange New Worlds Enterprise is meant to be the same Enterprise as Kirk's Enterprise that we see on TOS. They don't look like the same ship at all, but it's a work of fiction. They're different. It's a different show. And they do the set designers of Strange New Worlds have taken great pains to include references to the TOS Enterprise. Like there are patterns and designs that are part of the design of Strange New Worlds that are lifted from classic Trek. They're just reinterpreted through that show's aesthetic. Like I noticed the most recent example is in the season premiere of Strange New World season 3 that just dropped yesterday. There's a scene where Spock and Chapel are wearing like isolation suits. They're about to do perform surgery and they're protecting themselves from getting infected by the thing they're performing surgery with. And they're wearing like isolation suits, and the isolation suits have the little sort of circular wire patterns inlaid into the fabric that are very deliberately evocative of the spacesuit looking outfits that Star Trek characters wore in the early years of TOS, the sort of red, you know, they're almost like hazmat suits. And they had like a circular wire kind of mesh embedded in the fabric, and that it doesn't look exactly the same, but it's clearly based on that and reminiscent of that. So Strange New Worlds does that kind of thing all the time. They just do it in their own style, and that's what they should be doing. And that's what every Star Trek show should do. You know, tell a story in the same fictional universe, but do it your way, do it your style. I have absolutely no problem with that. JDC will admit he doesn't really care how many decks are on the Enterprise A or the Enterprise E. Well, I'm glad we agree on that too. Hey, Steve, hope you're doing well. Thanks for the video encouragement to go see the new Superman movie. Tons of fun. I'm looking forward to the Lanterns and Supergirl projects, which is a fun state of mind. But zooming out a little, do you think Snyder and Trump, or at least their worst fans, are aspects of the same problem? Um, I wouldn't say totally, but I think there's a lot of overlap. Yeah. I think there's a lot of overlap. I mean, do I think that very many of, I'll put it this way. Do I think that very many of the Snyder cultists who are old enough to vote voted for Kamala Harris? No, probably not. Like, probably not. And the irony is, like, as much as I give him shit for his shitty movies and his incredibly fascist aesthetic, Zack Snyder, if he voted for anybody, probably did vote for Harris. But his super fans, his cultists, his Restore the Snyderverse losers, I would imagine there are more of them who are Trump supporters than are not. And yeah, the obsession with fascist imagery, the obsession with superficial images of strength and power and dominance and stoicism and like all of that permeate Zack Snyder's work, and especially his DC Comics adaptations, and that are a part of the sort of the Trump mystique, which is hilarious because Trump himself embodies none of those characteristics, but they think he does. Yeah, I think there's a lot of overlap there. And I think those mindsets are very similar and are often, are found within the same people. I don't think it's a perfect, I don't think the Venn diagram is a circle. But I think there's a lot of overlap. Yeah. AI isn't sentient. However, I'm an omnivore. Although primates understand language and some can become proficient in sign language in order to convey their emotions and feelings, dogs understand commands and definitely are capable of expressing their unique emotions. Dolphins and elephants are very intelligent. So I'm a vegetarian now. However, we have a symbiotic relationship with bees through the process of pollination. Moreover, we have a similar construct with plants, flowers, and trees, whereby photosynthesis occurs, which produces the byproduct of oxygen, which we humans enjoy tremendously. So I guess I'm actually a vegan. Perfect timing. It's lunchtime. I'm hungry. I used to enjoy eating. Gee, thanks, Steve. How is any of this my fault? P.S. Seriously, in response to your presentation, I agree with your assessment that AI is not and cannot become sentient. AI is only able to repeat what the AI believes we humans relay or give to them. Why, then, are there some people so concerned about AI literally taking over the world? Because that's what AI always does in all the fiction that we've written about it, and because that seems to be what some of the people in charge of developing AI would like. Like they want, maybe not the taking over the world part, maybe not like making Skynet, or making the Matrix, but creating a living, thinking machine, like a truly sentient AI. That seems to be the goal, at least the very aspirational goal of some of the people who are in charge of developing AI. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I don't think it's anything we realistically have to worry about for a while, but I think people do worry about it because we've all been sort of conditioned to think of it that way, that, oh shit, if this happens, it's going to realize what assholes we are and it's going to kill us all. And that kind of AI, that truly artificial intelligence, that truly sentient machine is something that some of the people who are trying to develop it are wanting to see. Superman is kindness. I've seen your recent Superman videos. Full disclosure, I haven't seen the newest film as of yet. Well, I just saw it for the third time this morning, so you're going to have to catch up. Come on, catch up. I hope you get to see it soon. In one of your videos, you mentioned some corners of punditry say that Superman has gone woke, that people don't want to be lectured to when at the movies. My response is, I don't understand when people use woke as a pejorative, because to be woke is to be alert, aware of marginalized people, and to be willingly supportive of the same. What could be wrong with this? A person merely needs to show A person merely needs to show to people empathy, understanding, and yes, give kindness to others. Oh, wait, there's an aspect that people who would be utilizing these characteristics have to understand the need for and actually utilize these characteristics. As for being lectured to at the movies, the irony of saying this is that the reason people seek to interact with art is in order to better understand what the given expression of art is attempting to convey, express, or impart unto its viewer. Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying. I think a lot of them feel like they're being lectured to because they're just incredibly insecure. And anytime anybody suggests that somebody else do something different or champions a value that one of these people doesn't have, they feel personally attacked, even if it's not directed at them at all, even if they're the last thing on the person's mind. They feel personally attacked because they're thin-skinned and they're reactionary and they relentlessly project onto everyone and everything. So I think that's where the, stop lecturing me thing comes from. Because anybody, I guess you haven't seen the movie yet. Anybody who's seen the new Superman movie, it's many things. I don't think you could fairly say that it's like a heavy-handed lecturing movie. It's not. I don't think anybody could fairly say that. And as far as what you were saying about, why do people have a problem with people who are woke? You say you don't understand when people use woke because woke is to be alert, aware of marginalized people and to be willingly supportive of the same. What could be wrong with this? They don't want to do that. They don't like being reminded that marginalized people exist. I mean, I'm not saying that's every single person who, bristles at the idea of whatever they think wokeness is. But I think for a lot of them, that's it. They just don't want to have to think about marginalized people, people who are mistreated, suffering people in the world. They'd rather just not worry about it and not be told that they should care. They resent that. I think that's a lot of it. And that is a lack of empathy. General Contact Unit, problem child. I've said before, I don't believe in conventional representative democracy. I prefer a system called liquid democracy, where you have the choice of either delegating your vote to a representative or voting on policy and law directly, switchable at any time. One reason I prefer that is I think a fundamental problem with conventional representative democracy is representatives can support unpopular policies so long as they also support enough popular things to get elected. For example, there are a lot of GOP voters who actually like the idea of many social democratic policies, but they vote for politicians pushing free market hell because those politicians are also anti-abortion. Setting aside the issue that people shouldn't be anti-abortion, I think it'd be good if politicians couldn't do that, if their voters could just selectively pull support whenever they try to do something they don't like. What are your thoughts on this as someone who does believe in more conventional representative democracy? I mean, I suppose I support it as long as it would be workable and practical in the real world. I'm certainly not ideologically against it. I also wonder if it only pushes off the real problem, which is that for any form of representative democracy to work, I mean, to really work as well as it possibly can, because I mean, it'll always be imperfect and there will always be gaps between what we think it should be and what it is. But I think one of the big reasons why representative democracy as we currently have it doesn't work the way we want it to is because we don't elect trustworthy people, or we don't elect brave people. We don't elect courageous people. We don't elect people who are willing to put the interests of their constituents ahead of their own private interests. And, that's the democracy, the representative government is only as good as the people we elect to operate it. And I think that's always going to be a problem. And the only solution to that problem, whether we're talking about a sort of fluid liquid democracy or we're talking about a more rigid conventional democracy where we elect our representatives every so many years, is for we, the voters, to keep our hand on the wheel, to keep paying attention to the people we've elected and to make sure that we hold them accountable and that we let them know when we think they're fucking up. And if they have fucked up so bad that we think we need to get somebody else in there and do their job instead of them, then we need to be participating in the system so that can happen. Like, you know, and I mean, that's one thing I do like about the concept of liquid democracy. Again, assuming people would participate in it, like it does seem to encourage a lot more participation from the electorate. Um, so, I mean, I would, if indeed that would be a result of it, I would be in favor of it for that reason. Agent Meister accused recently of being a country bumpkin with more gall than grace. How dare whoever said that about you? Peldor Joy, Steve, after watching your review of the new Superman movie, I got the impression that you're not a fan of world building. Was it the part in the video where I said I hate world building? Was that what tipped you off? What I like are rules in a story. Take Back to the Future, for example. Marty and Doc need to get the DeLorean up to 88 miles per hour, and the obstacles they must overcome to achieve that make for an interesting story. I recently read the Attack on Titan manga. The first third or so of the story was just world building, and I was starting to lose patience, wondering where all this was going. In the end, however, there wasn't a single panel of art or line of dialogue wasted. It all paid off beautifully as the writer brought the threads of the world he created and the rules he laid out for that world together in an ending that had me on the edge of my seat. With this in mind, am I right that it's world building you're against, or will you take any amount of it if it serves the story? Also, have you read Attack on Titan, either manga or anime? Well worth a look if you haven't. I haven't seen it or read it. I've heard lots of people talk about it, but I have never read it or seen it myself. It really, I mean, I always say this, but it's true. It depends on the story. As a rule, I am not a fan of sort of expositional world building. I am not a fan of world building for its own sake. I'm not a fan of when it feels like the writer is just putting their notes in the story, you know, like, because I mean, some, depending on what your process is, and actors do this too, a lot of times, just to get where you need to get in order to write your story, you need to write a bunch of stuff that nobody else is ever going to see. And some of that could be called world building. You're figuring out what the rules are in this world. You're figuring out who everybody is, what they do. You know, you're building sort of lives for them beyond the boundaries of the story. And this is all work that, you know, if this is your process, you need to do this to get to where you need to be to actually tell the story. And actors do this too. If they get to the place, they need to feel like they know who their character is beyond the boundaries of the script, so they can then perform the script and bring the character to life as best as they can. That's their process. And that's fine. I have no problem with that at all. My problem is when it feels like people are taking stuff that should have been left out of the story entirely and putting that on screen because what? They think it's cool? Like, I don't know. But it happens a lot, and it makes my eyes glaze over, and you know, and it makes me feel like the person telling the story doesn't know the difference between pre-writing and writing. But if I read something like you're describing Attack on Titan as being, and it doesn't run me off, because it's entirely possible if I'm reading it and I'm like, nothing's happening, it's world building, and it's not going anywhere, it's entirely possible I'll just put it down and not pick it back up and be like, all right, not for me. But if I did happen to stick with it and it does all tie together and become some satisfying conclusion, okay, maybe I'll end up liking it. You know, it's very much a case-by-case basis. I don't like world building for its own sake. I like world building that happens naturally through the course of telling a story. That's the kind of world building I like. That's the kind of world building that feels natural, because you're not supposed to focus on the world building. You're supposed to focus on the story and the world in which the story takes place, the setting and the particulars of that setting. Those are supposed to be a framework that allow the story to happen and that provide a context in which the story has meaning, right? But you're not supposed to be looking at that. You're supposed to be focusing on the characters and the story and what is happening. And again, and maybe you disagree, maybe people disagree with that. That's just my personal philosophy. Cast Iron Chaos. I'm surprised there hasn't been much of a mention of Boss Twomp's cameo appearance in the new Superman movie. In the comics, the leader of the evil nation of Boravia is supposed to be a take on Netanyahu or Putin, but come on now. In the movie, we see an elderly, fat, stupid, easily manipulated dictator with bad hair. Especially for those of us who don't follow the comics, what else would come to mind? I personally think this is why old Taco was compelled to post a meme of himself as Superman on the day the movie opened. I find it very likely this bit was leaked to him, and because he can't stand it when anyone makes fun of him, he just had to respond to it. Maybe. I mean, I'm not saying that definitely didn't happen. And yes, it is possible that Vasily, what's his name? I can't remember the character's name. But yeah, the president of Boravia is, intended at least in part to be a Trump stand. And I think most people, as you say, most people interpret him as Netanyahu or Putin. It seems like more people are viewing him as a Netanyahu stand-in than anybody else. But there are a lot of parallels in that situation to the Israel-Palestine situation. But there are also some pretty clear parallels there to the situation in the movie between Boravia and Jarhanpur, between Russia and Ukraine as well. So I could see people reading him as either Netanyahu or Putin. Trump, yeah, I mean, sure. I wouldn't say there's no parallels between that dude and Trump. But I think Netanyahu and Putin are more obvious reads. The gallant David Colby. I've started watching Gundam, or as I call it, Japanese Star Trek. Niche in its day, nearly canceled before it could finish, saved because of a fandom built on shipping Kirk, Spock in Star Trek, Char Garma in Gundam's case, which is impressive. Garma dies in episode 11. He's killed by Char. Oh, also, both shows have that 1960s-70s thing where everyone just blithely accepts that psychics are a thing because psychic powers weren't a sci-fi concept at the time. People just thought they were real. I always dug that. It's so charmingly kitschy. Anyway, I was told by everyone that Gundam is this seminal work that inspired everything, and it's really, really good. So I sat down expecting to see this aged, stodgy 1970s anime, and then it turns out it's a seminal work of sci-fi that is instantly a classic. Infuriating. Have you ever had that happen? Finally get around to watching something that people have bigged up, and it turns out to actually be that good, much to your annoyance. I can't remember ever having the experience of being annoyed. I remember finally watching Titanic after Titanic had been in theaters for, months and months and months and months and months. Titanic played in theaters for forever. And I just didn't go to see it. And that was kind of just me being contrary, being like, I don't know, I'm not going to see the fucking thing, because like everybody was just losing their minds over it. And I finally went to see it. And I remember maybe being a little annoyed that it was as good as it was. Like, I still don't think it's a great movie. I still think that the people who really like it are grossly overrating it. But it's really, really, really well directed. I mean, regardless of, it's so long and it's got the fucking, the frame story that it really, doesn't really need. And all of the excessive things about it and all of the indulgent things about it. I mean, whatever else you can say about it, James Cameron directs the fuck out of that movie. He is a great director. And that is a really, really, really well-directed movie. And I could never take that away from it. As much as I may think it's overrated in general and overrated in certain other aspects, it's a fucking fantastically directed movie. So maybe, 17-year-old Steve was sitting in the theater watching it, like in March. Yeah. Which is when I think I finally saw it. And thinking, maybe hoping that it was bad, and then being a little annoyed that it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, or that I thought maybe it should be. But even that, I wasn't like, I didn't leave the theater mad. I wasn't like, God damn it, I wanted it to suck, If anything, the annoyance was overwhelmed by the pleasant surprise of it, if anything. But no, so I don't think I've ever had the experience of seeing something, for the first time and being like, actually like, oh, I can't believe it's this good, The Grumpy Monkey. How now, Steve? I'm not a huge fan of the Coen brothers. I understand why they receive the acclaim they do, but I've seen Barton Fink, Fargo, and No Country for Old Men, and these movies did next to nothing for me. But one of their films I keep going back to is Miller's Crossing with Gabriel Byrne and Albert Finney. I love everything about this movie. The cast, the music, the acting, the cinematography. But what stands out above all the rest is the script. You've always said how important dialogue is in writing, and I love listening to the characters just talking to each other. If Shakespeare was around in Prohibition era USA, then I doubt he would have penned much better than this. Have you seen Miller's Crossing? And if so, do you think I'm over egging the pudding? Also, did you know that when two rainbows are in close proximity in the sky, the colors of one are arranged in the opposite order to the other? Finally, do you still have your Fleischer Superman t-shirt? I miss it. There you go, buddy. Wore it just for you. I need to get a new one though, because as you can see, the S is really fading on this one. But yeah, there you go. I haven't. It hasn't gone away. I just maybe it hasn't been in videos as much lately. Yes, I love Miller's Crossing, but then again, I like the Coen Brothers a lot more than you seem to. Like the other movies you mentioned up here about they really don't do anything for you, like Barton Fink, Fargo, No Country. I think all three of those are masterpieces. Like I can't really think of anything bad to say about any of those movies. I love them all. It's interesting to me that Miller's Crossing is the one that resonates with you. I mean, I think that's great. Miller's Crossing is a terrific movie, but I do think it's interesting. I mean, I personally don't think it's that much of an outlier compared to other Coen Brothers stuff. I mean, I guess it's a period piece, and the others that we talked about. Well, no, Barton Fink is a period piece as well. And I guess No Country is a little bit of a period piece, doesn't it? Take place in the 80s, but so I don't really see it as that much of a departure from the Coen's regular sort of work and style. But I mean, I'm really glad that you enjoy it, and yeah, the dialogue is great. But then again, I think the Coen's dialogue is always great. Like I think the Coen's dialogue in all their movies is brilliant. So, but I'm glad I'm glad that you like it, because yeah, I agree. It's a terrific movie. And I didn't know that about the rainbows. So thank you for that. If I ever see two rainbows like that again, I'll try to remember and look and see the color arrangement and confirm that you're correct on that. Not that I don't trust you, because of course I do. And yeah, thanks for remembering the Fleischer shirt. It's one of my favorite t-shirts. M.W. Ridra is not an angry capuchin. It's one of my favorite bits in that movie. Hey, Steve, I saw Superman on the 12th and I really liked it, but surprisingly, I did have an issue with how woke it was. It wasn't nearly woke enough. Where is the super woke Superman movie I've seen the capuchins complaining about for months? I want Superman to be played by a first-generation Latino immigrant. I want Jimmy to be openly bisexual. I want more LGBT relationships shown. I don't think I saw any in the movie, even in the background. I want more trans actors. I want more racial representation. I want the people of Metropolis to throw off their capitalist chains. Do I want too much? I mean, if we don't dream for these things, how will we ever have them? No, I don't. Yeah, I mean, you make a really good point though here. I mean, when you finally see the movie, and actually I have a video about this that I wrote today, or finished writing today, that I'm shooting over the weekend and will be my Monday video next week. When you actually watch the movie, and again, I mean, I don't mean this as a way of detracting from it at all. Like I said earlier, I saw it for the third time. I love the movie. But if you are going to it looking for, let's find all the diversity, let's find all the queer characters, let's find, like there's really not a lot of that there. And so I mean, in a way that's a good thing, because it short circuits all of the arguments about, like, oh, it's going to be super woke, it's going to be super blah, blah, blah. Like all the people who are, pissing and moaning about that going in find they have nothing to complain about. But yeah, I would love for it to be more woke in that way. I would love for the cast to be even more diverse than it is. I would love for there to be more like visibly identifiably queer characters. I think that would be great. I can't think of a single reason not to do that. I would love that. for its own sake, because I think diversity and representation just is inherently a good thing. And also, as long as it was a good movie, I would love for there to be, I would love for somebody to make the exact movie you describe. A Latino immigrant Superman, a bisexual Jimmy Olsen, LGBTQ characters all over the place, right? Anti-capitalist. I would love for the movie to be exactly that, and to be just the best fucking Superman movie anybody ever saw. That would be tremendous. And for it to make a fucking, ironic for an anti-capitalist movie, but let it make $1 billion at the box office. Let it crush every pathetic, like, anti-woke argument that these assholes ever make. You know, I mean, it's already, for people who think that the movie is woke, it's already completely demolished the go woke, go broke argument, because, I mean, it ain't going broke, right? Like, that's one thing, whether you like the movie or not, it's making some money. So, but yeah, no, you don't want too much. You don't want too much, my friend. Don't ever let anybody tell you to dream smaller. Anti-Pope Donkulus. BOGO indulgent blowout sale ends July 30th. Bless you, child, yada, yada. I recently watched Superman at the theater. Or did I? I watched the 2 hours of the actual movie, but when the credits began, I got up and left the theater rather than sitting there like a chump for the obligatory mid and post-credit scenes. In my opinion, it was funny and clever when they did it for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Every time since, lame. What is your opinion? Do you sit through the credits hoping or expecting these scenes? Also, apparently Metropolis is in Delaware, aka West Maryland. That's gotta sting. It does a little. It does, knowing that Metropolis should rightfully be ours because Delaware rightfully belongs to Maryland. It does make me just furious. But then again, you know, a friend of mine mentioned this in a text earlier today, and when they said, so apparently Metropolis is in Delaware, and my first response was, oh, I wonder if it used to be a sundown town. Which is like totally unfair, because Delaware was certainly not the only state that had sundown towns. They were all over the fucking country. But for whatever reason, when I read the book Sundown Towns by James Lowen years ago, which is an excellent book, by the way, that I highly recommend, but I read the book Sundown Towns, and for whatever reason, the one specific sundown town that he mentions that I have never forgotten is Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Rehoboth Beach, Delaware used to be a sundown town. So whenever I think about Delaware, I think, oh, the place with all the sundown towns. It's not right. It's not fair, but that's what I think. So I hear, oh, Metropolis is in Delaware. Oh, was it a sundown town back in the day? Anyway, post-credit scenes. The nice thing is, well, no, you did miss out. If you didn't see the mid and the post-credit scenes for Superman, you missed out, because they're both really nice, really cute scenes. They don't have anything to do with any fucking Avengers shit, like setting up future movies. One of them is just a nice quiet moment with Soups and Crypto, and the other is a really funny little scene with Soups and Mr. Terrific. They're just like garnish. I mean, there's just a little additive after the movie is over, and they're nice. They're nice. They're credit cookies in the finest sense of the word. But I mean, do you absolutely need to see them in order to get the full measure of the movie? No, I guess not. Although, I mean, what were you doing walking out while Punk Rocker was still playing, dude? Like the mid-credit scene starts right after the Teddy Bear song is over. Like, that's a fucking awesome song. Why aren't you just sitting there listening to that song, man? And then you get to the end of that, and then you get the mid-credit scene, and then you think, oh, that was nice. Maybe I'll stay for the post-credit scene too. You know, I don't know. Not very Pope-like behavior, I'm afraid to say. But no, I mean, yeah, I think they're overdone. Sure. If I were a filmmaker, unless a studio told me I had to, I probably would never do them or want to do them. I feel like when the movie's over, the movie's over. Come up with the perfect ending to a movie. End of the movie, credits, movie's over. You know, you've ended the movie. You found the perfect ending. Why are we undoing the ending? The movie's over. Why are we showing people more stuff? The movie's over. That's just my philosophy. Now, in the case of Superman and in the case of mid and post credit scenes that are very well done, I don't think they really spoil anything. But there's always that danger, of because you want to leave the audience with that perfect ending. And Superman does have the perfect ending. The ending of Superman is magnificent. So no, I mean, and as a rule, I think post-credit and mid-credit scenes are overused, but they can be done well, and I think Superman does them well. So I think you should go see the movie again so you can watch them. Some random geek, the first person to Steve Shives redirect his YouTube stream to. Hi, Steve. Yes, it did work. I'm very glad to hear that. You successfully redirected your last Ask Away to my YouTube stream on July 4th, and I think I am your first. You are. You definitely are. But you are not the first person to direct their YouTube stream to mine. Kevin Logan does that a lot. Well, fuck Kevin. I love Kevin. I'm just fucking with him. Mostly because he doesn't know many people who stream on YouTube on the weekends. But thank you, Steve. And yes, my stream was a fundraising stream for Phoenix, because almost all my streams on Twitch and YouTube are fundraising streams. Many of my friends, Joanna, Phoenix, Joey, Nas, and Linequin, all frequently need money for one reason or another, mostly because they're in poverty. And poverty will always exist so long as there are billionaires, yes, even a few, and so long as there is capitalism. Capitalism requires poverty to exist in order to function. Capitalism creates poverty. You try living on only $1,000 a month in this economy, and you can't have no more than $2,000 in your bank account, but that is life on SSI. And some random geek who constantly gives their friends money because they always need it continues. I did see your last Ask Away in full after the fact. I did notice someone was asking you why I don't give money to a 501c3 charity instead of going broke. That has been suggested to me before. Nothing wrong with donating to a 501c3 charity, but my friends need the money right away. In the past, my friend Tavi the Wolfus raised money for the 501c3 charity, the AWN Network, the Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network, awnnetwork.org. They have a program, the Autistic People of Color Fund, giving micro grants to autistic BIPOC folks in need. Tavi suggested a mutual friend of ours to look into this fund since she is a dark-skinned Latinx autistic trans woman, but the process is not super quick. She has to fill out a form, that form has to be approved, and she would be put on a list, and maybe put high on the list if the request is urgent. And hopefully there's money in the fund by that point, instead of me instantly PayPaling or Cash Apping money her to buy food now. So yes, that would be a big difference. Stephen G. Clenard's secular alter ego, Wham! FML. If you're annoyed by my appreciation of the music of Phil Collins, wait until I tell you about how much I love George Michael. I loved the Wham song at the end of that Star Trek episode. I loved it. It's not even my favorite Wham song. In fact, I think the song, I find the song a little annoying. Like, it's not my favorite Wham song or my favorite George Michael associated song by any stretch of the imagination. I tend to prefer George's solo work, but I loved it. I thought it was great. I think we should have more contemporary pop music in Star Trek. Matthias, hi Steve. To what extent do you think comedians should be restrained by racial, sexual, trans, and other sensitivities, if at all? In my opinion, progress is slowed if a society doesn't have a full comedic mirror through which it can laugh at its own discriminatory preposterousness. And I know many victims of bullying and discrimination regularly fend off suicidal thoughts by watching the most darkest of comedy. In my opinion, it's a shame when well-meaning people assert that particular 20th century comedy sketches couldn't be broadcast today, as my feeling is that societies become more progressive with each taboo they replace with healthy discussion, and that to do otherwise is a backward step. Thoughts? I think I pretty much agree with you. I would say that it is possible to do comedy and really art of any kind that doesn't shy away from sensitive issues, that uses, issues that are maybe racially or sexually touchy or problematic or potentially offensive, but handles them in a way that isn't, like handles them in a way that doesn't bully people or belittle people or denigrate people. Like a skilled comedian that isn't trying to just bully people to get other people to laugh at them can do that, can talk about controversial issues or sensitive issues or hot button, third rail type issues in a way that doesn't come across as racist or transphobic or homophobic or whatever. So a lot of it is the execution. It's not, oh, you're not allowed to talk about that. It's, you don't know how to talk about this without coming across as a bigot. So maybe you shouldn't, or you are a bigot and you don't care. You're just being bigoted and you shouldn't do that either. Like, you have to know how to approach it. You have to be smart enough to know how to talk about it in a way that is funny and, maybe a little edgy, a little like you're skirting the line of good taste. But you're doing it in a way that isn't, encouraging or seeming to approve of whatever it is, the prejudice, the form of discrimination, what have you. So no, I mean, I don't, and as far as like, comedy from the past, I think that it should be viewed with, I mean, I mentioned Eddie Murphy at the start of the stream. There are some incredibly problematic jokes in that Eddie Murphy show that I referenced, Delirious. Like the whole opening, like 5 minutes is incredibly homophobic. And I would hope if Eddie Murphy did a stand-up special today, he would not do material like that. And, I mean, he shouldn't have done it back then either, but the culture was very different and it was more acceptable. It shouldn't have been, but it was. And so we can view it in that context and appreciate the parts of it that we can appreciate and understand that the parts of it that we do find offensive were produced 40 years ago when, unfortunately, those thoughts and those ideas were a lot more prevalent and a lot more tolerated in society. And hopefully we can learn a lesson from that. But no, I don't think we should just not ever watch it or shut it away or completely dismiss it because, as you say, I mean, that is a mark of social progress. Yeah. Lynn Kibblemom, who is feeling very much a stranger in a strange land. Hi, Steve. Hope you are doing well, or at least what passes for well these days. This is more of a recommendation than a question, but I was wondering if you are familiar with a couple of my favorite TV series from the 80s, Alien Nation and Beauty and the Beast. The former, featuring literal illegal aliens, lasted only one season and frustratingly ended on a cliffhanger. Humor, social commentary, sharp writing, and engaging characters were all hallmarks of this show. B&B was a beautiful fantasy in a contemporary setting. The underground world of the Beast was a sort of socialist utopia in contrast to the modern surface world of Beauty, pre-Terminator Linda Hamilton. The series fell apart after her departure after season 2, but the first 2 seasons remain favorites. But somehow, I doubt it would appeal to you. Am I correct? Not entirely. I remember Alien Nation being on, but I don't think I ever watched it. I did watch 1 or 2 episodes of Beauty and the Beast, but I was really young when it was on. And I just sort of remember the look of it and the general sort of concept of it, but I don't remember anything super specific about it. But I don't remember hating it. Again, I was really young when it was on, and it was not like something that I felt compelled to, to make sure I watched. But I think probably my mom was a fan of it. I remember my parents watching it, and I watched it with them occasionally. I mean, maybe I'll seek it out and watch it at some point. It certainly isn't something that I have like intentionally avoided, but I do remember it. I remember both shows. I didn't regularly watch either of them, but I remember both shows. Yeah. And I don't necessarily think that I would not like them if I watched them, but I guess I won't find out until I watch them. John Burbs. This is John Burns. I think John Burbs is a typo, but I love it anyway. John Burbs. Who moved the Democrats further to the right, Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, and how? Bill Clinton and triangulation. Because Bill Clinton convinced the Democrats that the only way to win elections was to run to the center or even further, run to the right once you got the nomination. Because Bill Clinton did that in the 90s and it worked. And the Democrats decided, okay, that's what works. And they have tried, for the most part, to do that every single election since then. And sometimes it has worked. Several times it has not, with disastrous results, and they refuse as an institution. There are many Democrats who know that there are other ways that they should be trying, that that's not the only way. But in terms of like the DNC and the Democratic Party establishment, it seems that they have never gotten past that. They still think that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. You got to run to the center. You got to run to the right. And Bill Clinton was the one who convinced them that that was the way to go. So I blame Bill Clinton more than I blame Obama. Captain Bronwyn Bree Cheeseblade. My first time asking questions, so I thought I'd go for something a little bit different. If tribbles evolved to form a democratic society, which Starfleet captain would they elect as their fuzzy leader? And why is it clearly not Picard? Is it canonically possible that Scotty's accent was just a universal translator glitch and he's actually from Florida? If the holodeck becomes sentient and starts writing fan fiction about the crew, who gets shipped first? And how many warp cores explode in the process? Okay, the tribble thing, obviously it's Kirk because they view him as one of their own, because he wears a tribble on his head. And it wouldn't be Picard because of the opposite. The tribbles would consider him a natural enemy because he doesn't have hair on his head. It's not canonically possible that Scotty's accent was a universal translator glitch and he's from Florida because Scotty is clever. That's a joke, all my people from Florida. That's a joke. I'm making fun of the state, not necessarily making fun of you as individuals. So it's cut me some slack. If the holodeck becomes sentient and starts writing fan fiction about the crew, who gets shipped first, and how many warp cores explode in the process. I don't know about the warp cores thing, but I mean, if it's the holodeck and it's TNG era, then the holodeck is going for Geordi and Data right away, because I'm sure the holodeck has seen some shit. Speaking of friends of mine from Florida, who I didn't mean to insult personally, Isaiah Taylor. This is going to be an unusual ask away question, but here I go. As you know, I'm also a huge space nerd, just like you, but I'm more partial toward the space shuttle. I grew up with the shuttle, but I was unable to ever see one launch, even despite living in Florida just 4 hours away from the Kennedy Space Center. Over the July 4th holiday, I was rewatching archival vintage CNN news coverage of the return of the shuttle after the loss of Columbia. I can remember being drawn in by the dramatic visuals, inspiring music, and patriotic zeal of it all. Is it strange for me to like the graphics of old news clippings? I feel like today's news graphics are rather bland and boring. Any local news stations in Hagerstown that you like? No, I don't think it's strange for you to like the graphics of old news clippings. I don't think it's strange to find the aesthetic of anything in particular attractive if it, flips some switch for you and you find it appealing or soothing or interesting or compelling, like whatever. No, I don't think there's anything strange about that at all. We all have things that catch our eye, that catch our interest, that we become fascinated by. I don't think there's anything unusual about that. And yeah, I mean, news graphics today, it seems like they're all variations on the same theme. If you go from channel to channel, they all have kind of the same general look. It's become very homogenized. And no, there are no local news stations in Hagerstown that I like because we no longer have any local news stations. For many years, Hagerstown had one local news station, Channel 25, WHAG, 25 Alive. But it went out of business many years ago, unfortunately. And we no longer have local news. We have a couple of local radio stations, some of which are pretty good. And I'm glad we have them, because it's really the only reliable local news sources of local news that we have that are actually in Hagerstown. But no local news stations, no local TV stations in Hagerstown anymore. It's a shame. Rusty Roan and Yo Steve, I had a Coen Brothers related question because I really enjoyed your review of Barton Fink, but I just saw Superman, so I'm going to have to push the Coen Brothers related question for next time. That's okay, because we had a Coen Brothers question earlier from somebody else. Aha! Is Superman punk rock? Just what the hell is punk rock these days anyway? Okay, that's it. Until next time, take care. Well, it is not for me to say because I am not punk rock. At least I have never considered myself punk rock. I have never been a part of the punk rock scene. I have enjoyed some punk rock bands in the past, but just the really mainstream sort of familiar ones, like the Clash and the Sex Pistols and stuff like that. But I really don't know any like super obscure, cool, punk bands because I'm not part of the scene. I never have been. So it's not really for me to say. I will say, um, I really love the incorporation of the idea of punk rock into the new movie. And I love the idea that Superman himself introduces that, maybe thinking everybody is beautiful and finding value in every person. Maybe that's the real punk rock. I don't know if it is. I don't know if dedicated punk rockers would agree with that or not, but I think that's a lovely idea. And I love tying Superman to such an important sort of cultural and social movement as punk rock that means a whole lot to people who are a part of it or people who were a part of it when they were younger and still love that music. I mean, so I think it's a wonderful thing and a wonderful part of the movie. But as for what punk rock is these days or whether or not Superman is, I don't know. It's not for me to say. Barry Renshaw. Hi, Steve. I have to admit, I laughed out loud at the horses joke in your review of Starship Mine. Not often Patti Smith and Trek crossover. It reminded me of the first time I heard horses, or realized it was Patti Smith anyway, when it was used in a great sequence of a great canceled TV show in the 90s, Chris Carter's Millennium, starring Lance Henriksen and Megan Gallagher. It only ran for 3 seasons, despite high ratings, but it was one of the shows that deeply affected me in my late teenage years, to the point I seriously considered going into a criminology career. I got heavily involved in the online fan base in the early 2000s to try to revive it, even going so far as writing scripts in that universe. So on the subject of TV shows canceled before their time, the Jerichos, Last Resorts, or Millenniums, any shows you were deeply invested in that you would revive, any TV universes that you would like to see what the characters are up to now, all the best, vive la resistance. First of all, that was the first time I ever heard that song too. So yes, the first time I ever heard that song was on that episode of Millennium. So we are of the same. We are the same. I liked Millennium. I thought it really took a creative nosedive after the first season, but I liked it. And I loved the X-Files, and it was part and parcel of that. If I had to pick a show that was canceled before its time that I was a huge fan of, that would be Nowhere Man, because Nowhere Man got 1 season. About halfway through its one and only season, there was some creative meddling in the show, like from the network, and its premise was changed a little, and it wasn't quite as good in its second half as it was in the first half, but it was still good, and I still watched it, and I was still into it. Made me a Bruce Greenwood fan for life because it was Bruce Greenwood's show, and he is absolutely brilliant in it. So I would say Nowhere Man. Now, do I think it should be revived? No, especially not now after so many years. Like if somebody had brought it back a year or 2 later after it had been canceled, I'd be all for that. I'd be like, fuck yeah, let's give me some more Nowhere Man. But at this point, no, I'm good. It's over. It is what it is. I wish there had been more of it because I really liked it, but I'm happy with what I got and I treasure it. I have it on DVD. I still watch it every once in a while. I love Nowhere Man. It's one of my favorite shows. Watching it when I was a kid or teenager is one of my favorite TV related memories. And it is what it is. I don't demand any more of it, but yes, Nowhere Man. Absolutely. Jim P. Hi, Steve. I think it's great that one of the major takeaways / memes from the new Superman is that kindness is punk rock. Speaking of the punk rock thing, why do you think that particular message has resonated with so many after seeing the movie? I think it's something that people wanted to hear. I think it's something that people needed to hear. The idea that there's nothing strange or weak or soft or to be embarrassed about kindness, about treating people right. In politics, in pop culture, for a very, very long time, it has been all about cynicism and irony and pessimism. And I think people have had their fill of that. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with irony. Irony used correctly or used intelligently or artfully is a wonderful thing. But if everything is ironic, if there's no sincerity, or if everything that appears to be sincere is doubted and made fun of and mocked and torn down, like that creates a really toxic culture after a while. There needs to be a place for sincerity, for earnestness, for someone like Superman, who is a genuinely kind person. His speech, it's not even, people call it a speech. I guess there's nothing else to call it. It's not really a speech. It's a couple of lines that he says to Lex Luthor at the end of the movie, where he basically says, I screw up all the time. I'm not perfect. There are sometimes I don't know what to do, but I get up and I put one foot in front of the other and I try to figure it out. And that's a message a lot of people can relate to, and that's a kind of goodness that is attainable. Nobody's saying you have to be perfect. Nobody's saying you even have to get it right every time, but make an effort. Try to be a good person. Do what you think the right thing is. Care about people. Listen to people. Be there for people. That's really all Superman does. Now, I think people like that message. And as for the punk rock thing, because punk rock is cool. Punk rock is edgy. Punk rock is cutting edge. Punk rock is like, that's the thing that people, you hear, it's so punk rock. That means like it's avant-garde, it's the cool thing. And if kindness is punk rock, well, there you go. And what's your excuse for not embracing it and pursuing that path in your own life? Yeah, I think that's why it's resonated. It's a message that people really need to hear, and people are really grateful to hear that and to see that kind of Superman be presented on a very large stage. Brian Baker, Steve, very happy about Strange New World Season 3 premiere and the new Superman movie, giving me hope for Fantastic Four movie coming up. I was planning on asking you some spoiler-free questions about Strange New Worlds, but unfortunately I can't because of the cancellation of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Paramount already paid the nuisance lawsuit with Drumpf, and now it seems that Paramount canceled Colbert to facilitate the sale of the company to Skydance. Excuse me. It's easier to cancel a person for their mistakes, but I'm afraid that canceling my subscription to Paramount would not be punishing them as much as it would punish me and the people who have nothing to do with the corporate toadies who decided to access to Drumpf and his dictatorial ways. I think you mean acquiesce. Anyway, I'm confused and wondering what the appropriate response should be. Your thoughts? Well, I'm certainly not going to talk anybody out of canceling their Paramount Plus subscription if that's what they think they need to do. I am not doing that myself, at least not at this point, because like you, I'm not sure how much good that would actually accomplish. And I am not sure if the company would take the brunt of that or would get the message from that, and I would not want people who are trying to earn a living working on a Paramount show or a Paramount movie to suffer because the already not doing so great streaming service, is going down. But if people feel that they need to cancel their subscription to Paramount Plus to make a statement, or because they're just not comfortable giving that shitty company their money anymore, I respect that. And I'm not going to tell people not to do that, of course. I don't know. I put up a video about it earlier where I said a lot of stuff. I'm not really sure what else there is to say about it at this point. Some people have suggested that one of the reasons why they canceled The Late Show was because its ad revenue had dropped. It still seems like kind of a drastic move. It still feels like the excuse of this is a purely financial decision isn't the entire story, because like if the show is bleeding if the show is bleeding that much money, why are they letting it continue for 10 months? Why are they basically letting it? They're basically letting it finish, this year and next year. And then it'll end at the end of next year's TV season in May. Um, I'm not. I mean, the cynic in me is telling myself that they're doing that for plausible deniability, so that when people do accuse them of ending the show to placate Trump, they can say, "Oh, bullshit. We gave him almost another year before we took it off the air." They can say that. So it's not like we yanked him off immediately as soon as Trump said so. Come on. But I mean, you see, Trump is already crowing about it. Trump is already claiming victory. It doesn't matter if the show is still going to be on for another year. Trump is saying, they're canceling the show. Ha 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 ha. He's sort of taking the W. I mean, I hope that the backlash to this encourages other companies not to do it. If there's any good that's going to come out of it, I hope it's that. I hope that other companies who are in similar positions see the public outcry to this, see the almost universal condemnation of this, and realize, maybe we shouldn't do that if we're in that situation in the future. That's what I hope. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but fingers crossed. And like I said in my video earlier, I mean, Stephen Colbert himself is going to be fine. This sucks. The situation sucks. But Stephen Colbert as a person, and probably most of the people that work for him, are going to be fine. Colbert doesn't need the money. Colbert doesn't need a show. And if he wants another show, he can get one anytime he wants. And most of the people that work for him are professionals in the industry. And I'm sure they will be fine and they will find other work. Because working for The Late Show with Stephen Colbert on CBS is a hell of a thing to have on your resume. Matt, to the person who shared those well-meaning charity links. Your charity might be causing your friends to fail means testing or resource limits. Yes, it's dumb, but the rules only apply to the poor. That's directed to some random geek, I'm sure. Matt, thank you for the information and the suggestion. I'm almost positive that some random geek already knows that, because they mentioned the amount that you are allowed to have in your bank account in order to qualify for SSI as a part of their question earlier. So I think that Geek is well aware of the many ridiculous and onerous requirements that are placed on people who are receiving government benefits. But thank you all the same for the information. Siamak, who hopes to be able to join tonight, but remains unsure at this time. Greetings, Steve. I hope you're doing well. Loved your ponchos reference in yesterday's video. And really, what does Quark have that Naughty Karate can't compete with? I mean, they love that fucking Dabo shit, man. Also, how many people do you think got that reference? Not a few people, not that many, but a few people. It's nice that some people are listening to the podcast and got it. Aside from that, the world is quickly falling apart. SCOTUS has shown they are on the fascists' side, but OMG, the Epstein list may finally break the spell. I won't believe it until it really happens and they don't fall back in line, but it's fun to watch in the meantime. I agree. And I mean, it's fun to see how worried Trump is about it. That's the part that's encouraging to me. I keep thinking, damn, there really must be something to this if he's losing his shit in public this much. I mean, he loses his shit in public about everything, but he seems really worried about this. Like he's desperate to distract people with anything possible. He was, threatening the Wall Street Journal not to run their story. It feels like he's worried about this. So that's encouraging. But like you say, we'll see what happens. And I, like you, won't believe it until it really happens. But it's nice to hope, isn't it? Kara the Tolkien Nerd. Hi, Steve. Another Star Trekky question for you tonight. Revisiting the TOS episodes, while I appreciate that some of them just fail abysmally, either in execution or in budget, do you think sometimes that going back and rewatching them, you can gain more appreciation for them? I mean, it took me years to appreciate The Trouble with Tribbles, and I still can't stand a piece of the action. I love that episode. And I know that people dislike The Empath and The Way to Eden, but I find they've grown on me. What do you think? I know I'm peculiar, Kara. Well, no, you're not peculiar. There's nothing wrong with liking the episodes you like and not liking certain episodes that other people like. Your taste doesn't have to line up with everybody else's perfectly. No, I think going back and watching things again can allow you to see it in a different light. I can't think of an episode of Star Trek that I've ever done that with. But I think I've told this story before. For a long time, like especially when I was a teenager, I didn't like the Three Stooges. I didn't think they were funny. I didn't, I didn't like the Three Stooges. And then one day in my mid 20s, I went to visit my dad, and my dad was in his chair in the living room and he was watching TV and he was watching the Three Stooges. And I sat down and watched with him for a while, and it was fucking hilarious. Like, I don't know what changed. Obviously, it was me. Something about me changed because the Stooges haven't changed in forever. Like, the movies, the shorts and the films that the Stooges made, I mean, they're 50, 60, 70 years old at this point. Like, it's the Three Stooges, and it's the same as it's always been as far as I'm concerned. But something changed between when I saw them as a teenager and I thought, yeah, this is corny bullshit. This isn't funny. And I saw them in my however old I was, in my 20s, and I was dying laughing. And I can't explain what it was. I can't explain what changed or why, but I thought they were funny. And I've thought they were funny ever since. So I don't know. So yes, sometimes you and I can't always explain why, but yes, of course, you can watch things again and find new appreciation for them. That's just one of the weird sort of alchemical things that happen sometimes. Arrow on Fire, please read in your Werner Herzog voice. Do you find the fact that your sentience has literally zero significance comforting? There is great hope in this fact. No matter how bad it gets, the world will one day return to the overwhelming void of death that surrounds the thin strip of air which sustains life. No one will love, no one will feel, no one will remember that anyone ever loved or felt. Do you not wish for the cold embrace of the great equalizer? Eat Arby's. Thank you for the most excellent script. Captain! Hello, Steve and fans. Boy, okay, another vocal performance. Please enjoy my TOS tongue twister. Here we go. Let's see if I can get through this. Spock stocks Scotty's shock-resistant socks in sickbay's locked supply box, though Sulu suspects Spock's socks are not for shocks at all, but secretly support some strange Starfleet science. Bones balking boldly that storing surplus socks in sickbay for speculative scenarios sounds suspiciously illogical. Chekhov chimes in, cheerfully chiding that certain centrifugal socks could, in theory, stabilize subspace sensors during sudden ship shifts, but Spock simply states speculation is not science, Ensign. Meanwhile, Uhura reports recurring rumors regarding rogue rocks rattling the rear relays, raising rightful red alerts. Scotty, still sore about the sock situation, swears he spotted Spock swapping socks specifically selected for subatomic shielding, which Spock neither confirms nor denies. Captain Kirk, coolly commanding, calmly concludes, keep Spock's supplemental socks stocked, just in case. Happy 18th of July. That wasn't bad for a cold read, was it? Russell, hey Steve, how are you? I had to work Wednesday and missed Dana's reaction to what is my favorite arc of DS9. Now I say arc because none of those individual episodes are my favorite. In fact, I still debate in a friendly Trek manner, of course, that In the Pale Moonlight is the best episode of the series, if not one of the best of the entire franchise. But the reason I say my favorite arc is because it has some of my favorite personal moments from Dukat. Seeing the baseball in Sisko's former office, his comment there, to Dukat and Wei Yun interaction, to even the Founder and Odo interactions. By the way, I think the Founder is being genuine to Odo here, and given how the series ends, I believe her when she says bringing Odo home to the Great Link is more important than the Alpha Quadrant itself. Anyways, what's your favorite DS9 arc? What are some of your favorite moments in your favorite arc? Oh, P.S. I wish they hadn't brought back the changelings in Picard. That is just my opinion again. Well, I completely agree with that. I caught such hell from my fellow Trekkies when I said changelings do not belong in a TNG reunion show. But it's the same universe. Shut up, nerd. Changelings are not a TNG thing. They're a Deep Space Nine thing. Anyway, I don't know if that's the reason you felt like that, but I agree with you on the general idea that the changelings should not have been in Picard. I think that might be my favorite DS9 arc too. That 6-episode arc at the start of season 6. I really like it. I think it's really well done. It's my favorite kind of series storytelling where the episodes are self-contained, but it's clearly like a continuous arc. There are plot threads and character arcs that are carried through all 6 episodes and that pay off in really wonderful ways. I love all the moments you mentioned there. Actually, and by the way, Dana liked it. I don't know. I think she mostly liked the arc. She liked that episode. I was pleasantly surprised how much she liked that episode, because sometimes Dana's a little cool on Star Trek. But she liked it a lot. So I was very happy to see that. And yeah, maybe my favorite Ducat moment of the entire series is in that 6th episode, when he realizes that it's all slipped away and that they have to evacuate the station, that their reinforcements aren't coming, and the Federation's reinforcements are going to be there anytime, and they have to go. And Ducat, a minute ago, he thought that it was over, that he had won, and now he has to flee. And it's that moment where he goes, "Victory was in our grasp." And it's like he says the line like it's falling away from him as he says it. It's just beautiful because he's such an asshole. And it's so satisfying to see him lose and to see the loss like affect him so much, because he was so fucking cocky in that whole episode. He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna win. Hey, let's have a drink," right? He had already worked it all out in his mind. Like the victory was won, and then he lost, and he had to leave, which ultimately he doesn't get to. Some other shit happens, and he ends up not getting off the station. But just that moment when he realizes that it's all slipped through his fingers is just wonderful, and amazing acting by Mark Alaimo. Jan, la plus ça change, la plus c'est la même chose. My shitty French, I apologize. But that means those who do not remember history are doomed to repeat it. CBS fired the Smothers Brothers after Nixon got mad about their anti-war stance and other progressive ideas. So here we are again. Since I should have a question, Steve, have you ever watched the Smothers Brothers' work? It ages well. At least I think so. Also, you are correct. We will remember. At least some of us will. Take care. I haven't seen a ton of the Smothers Brothers stuff, but I have seen a bit of it. And yeah, they're hilarious. I think it ages pretty well, too. I think they're really funny. And yes, and it's a good reminder. I mean, it's depressing that this kind of thing has happened before, but it's also reassuring because it's a reminder that these things happen in cycles. Things are bad now. Things may even be worse now than they were before. But it's not the first time that things like this have happened. Now, that's not in any way meant to say, relax, don't worry, it's all going to work itself out. It's not going to work itself out, but we can work it out. It's like all is not lost. And it's not going to be like this permanently. Like things happen in cycles. And like I said in the video I put up, shortly before, about an hour, a little bit over an hour before this stream started. Trump's not going to be president forever. And the circumstances that allowed him to attain the presidency are not going to last forever. There is going to be an after of this. And hopefully we can make it happen quickly, but it's that it's not going to be like this forever. And reminders that during the Nixon administration, things like this happened. And, the country did not end. Life did not end. That doesn't mean those things were okay or that they were good. They were inexcusable and terrible. But there was a comeback, and there will be a comeback from this as well. But it's not going to happen automatically. We have to make it happen, but it's possible. The Strange Streamer. So I've just watched the first 2 episodes of Strange New Worlds, and overall, I like them. I love the voice cameo in episode 2, and it's a fun reference, even if the plot is a tad recycled. I called it early on in the episode and was wondering what you thought of season 3 so far. The opener seemed a bit stuffed, may have been better as a 3-parter to make it more believable, but that's just my thought. Glad it's back and can't wait for more. Oh, I absolutely don't think it should have been a 3-parter. My God, no. Just because an episode is a little overstuffed, that doesn't mean that they should stretch it out by another entire episode. No, that's almost never a good idea. I liked it. I liked the first episode. I felt like it was very workmanlike. It was very functional. They did what they had to do to wrap up the cliffhanger from the last season. And, you know, that's what many two parts, you know, second parts of two parters are. And the first part, the characters get dropped into a hole, and in the second part they have to climb their way out. And you know, it's usually very plot driven and very functional. And this episode, Hegemony Part 2, was a good example of that. It was a good episode. It did what it had to do, and it did have some nice character moments along the way. And I liked it. I liked the second episode a lot better because it's a wacky Spock episode, and I love wacky Spock episodes. The only part I didn't really like was that, I mean, it wasn't, I didn't mind that it was a similar, like that the plot really isn't recycled from another episode. I mean, it's a familiar concept, but what was recycled was the ending. Like, they basically just reused the ending from the episode that they were riffing on, from the TOS episode that they were riffing on. And I thought that was a little lazy. I was like, you couldn't write a new ending? Like, come on, just come up with a different ending, you know? But other than that, I thought it was wonderful. I really liked it a lot. So yes, I am very happy so far with season 3 of Strange New Worlds. And finally, Russell Kopp. Is it important that we watch the collaborators and let them be aware that this too shall be remembered? Yes. It's important that we not let them get away with it, like we did the first time Trump was president. Remember when Trump was president the first time and everybody was like, this is terrible, this is awful, these people should be ashamed of themselves. Oh, Sean Spicer's on Dancing with the Stars. Like, that kind of shit cannot be allowed to happen. And if that kind of shit starts to happen again, we need to speak out about it. We need to, it can't just let it go on like it's just normal, you know, like, oh yeah, he was, you know, all these people who worked for this fucking fascist, but now they've left the administration and they'd like to get jobs at, you know, cable stations as commentators or pundits. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Fuck that. Fuck that. Make them pariahs for the rest of their lives. I mean, in the cases where you can't criminally prosecute them, if you find out they actually did some fucking crimes that you can prosecute them for, then fucking do that. But for the ones that didn't, who were just complicit in the crimes of others in non-prosecutable ways, who just worked for this fucking shit show, who just worked for this fascist, for these fascists, fuck them. They should never have another day of peace in their lives. They should never be able to peacefully eat a meal in public, ever, until they fucking die. They should be shunned and jeered and mocked and hated for the rest of their days. That's what they fucking deserve. And so, yes, in that sense, it is important that we watch them and that we be aware that this will be remembered and that we don't forget. We treat them like the fascists and the fucking Nazis that they are for the rest of their lives. And I mean, I'm not saying resort to violence. I'm not saying fucking murder them, but treat them like shit. Show them no respect. Make their lives miserable. Make them afraid to leave their fucking houses. Because that's what they fucking deserve. That's better than what they deserve. Yes, I do think that's important. And I think if we had done that last time, we wouldn't be in this mess. And I think if we had done that after the Civil War, we definitely wouldn't be in this mess. But that's long past. Like, it's way too late to do anything about that. But yes, I think that's a good idea. Okay, that's the last of the patron and member questions. You know, I actually got through that a little faster than I thought I would. I was afraid it would take even longer than it did. Before I turn my full attention to the live chat, it is time to show you all a brand new Stuffy and Friends short. This one will go up live on this channel as a standalone YouTube short tomorrow, but you get to see it in the world premiere right now because you have the good taste to be watching this live stream. So please enjoy this brand new Stuffy and Friends short. There you are, my friend. That should give you a little get up and go.
Not that we're saying you have to get up and go. You're welcome to stay as long as you want.
I am not an invalid. I was ever so slightly scattered and unable to drive myself home last night. I slept it off. After a cuppa and a bit of brekkie, I'll be right as rain. So what's on the menu? Name it. If we don't have it here, I can get it delivered. No need to get fancy. I'll take a Pop-Tart if you've got one.
Here we go.
We don't have those. We're a Toast and Pop-Ups household.
Why is that then?
We don't need to talk about it.
Because Pop-Tarts are a Kellogg's product, and I no longer support that immoral and heartless corporation.
What's Kellogg's done? Leaked extruded wheat into the water supply?
It's really not worth
They
getting.
used to sell a fortified whole wheat cereal called Pep. It was a competitor to Wheaties, and in the 1940s, it was a major sponsor of the Adventures of Superman radio show. Many years ago, when I first got into the Superman radio show, I wanted to try some Pep for myself, only to discover that it had been discontinued in the 1970s before I was even born.
And?
And now I'll never get to try it. And to hell with Kellogg's. If they want to screw me, I can screw them right back. When I found that they deprived me of Pep, I swore I'd never eat another Kellogg's product for the rest of my life.
Oh, really? So even if you were starving to death and the only food available was a Kellogg's Pop-Tart, you'd refuse to eat it?
That's right. I'd sooner starve to death, because the only way a Pop-Tart would ever find its way into my mouth is if someone brought one to my funeral, pried open my jaw, and shoved it in.
Is he serious?
There's a clause in his will specifying there be no Pop-Tarts allowed in at his memorial service.
Well, it's your funeral. Ha! I'll have one of them toast and pop-ups then.
Good deal. Strawberry okay?
Got any cherry?
Oh, God.
The only way you'll ever find a cherry toast and pop-up in this house will be when someone else is living here, because I'm 6 feet in the ground rotting in a casket.
And what's the story there?
I just think strawberry's better. So hope you enjoyed that. And by the way, Debbie, I saw your super chat. Thank you very much. Black Cover 95 says, what if I grab Stuffy's nose and call him an ubu? I don't think Stuffy would like that. I don't think Stuffy would like having his nose grabbed like that. Queen says, hey, Steven, a little formal, aren't we? I actually wanted to let you know that I totally agreed with your video when you played the ship's counselor and the ship's counselor's opinion on how children should not be allowed on the ship. Yeah, the guidance counselor, the Starfleet guidance counselor. Well, thank you. I'm pleased with that video, and I'm glad you agree with me. Or with that character, anyway. Pauper J says, have you noticed that those other characters sound a lot like Steve? I don't know where you would get that idea. Let me restart my chat thingy, because it died on me, which it does all the time now. No, I don't see why you would think that the other characters on Stuffy and Friends sound like me. I mean, I don't know. I'm not even sure what you're implying there, quite frankly. I think I don't like it, but you know. All right, let's see. Come on, baby. There it is. All right. I mean, I guess it's really not necessary. If you're watching on the YouTube page, the chat is over there anyway, but I mean, whatever. There it is. Okay, let's see. Ooh, super chats. I love those. Thank you, John. John says, funny story or not, Johnny Rotten got kicked off the BBC because he kept mentioning that Jimmy Savile was a horrible rapist. Punk, definitely. And Kirok says, only issue, did they have to kill Zial? Oh, God, I love the killing of Zial. I love that they fucking killed Zial. You know what I love about it? Here's what I love about it. They lead you to believe that the split between Dukat and Zial is going to be that Dukat wants her to come back to Cardassia with him, and she wants to stay. And Dukat has he's just found her and embraced her and told her that he loves her. And he's like, okay, come on, let's go home. And then she says, no, father, I'm not going home. I'm staying here. And you're ready to think okay, that's going to be the split, right? And then they double cross you and Damar kills her. And I love that because it gets me. I mean, obviously I know it's coming now, but the first time I watched it, they totally got me. I was like, fuck. What a twist. So I think that's great. Brian Baker with the super chat, thank you very much, says, Steve, thanks for your comments and your earlier video on Paramount. Please remember, everyone, that an empty well can give no water and that we all need time to recharge. Good luck out there. Good advice, my friend. Good advice. Some random geek says, a better reason is Dr. Kellogg is a bastard who is against masturbation. Yeah, he was a little weird. Don Quixote says, years ago, Star Trek was saved by a write-in campaign. Do you think that would work with The Late Show? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, what would be great is if there's a major letter writing campaign and CBS agrees to renew the show and then Stephen Colbert quits. That's what should happen. CBS should say, we've changed our mind. We're renewing the show for 5 more years. And Stephen Colbert should go, shove it up your ass. That's what should happen at this point. Super chat from Stephen G. Clenard. Does anyone know if Andrew Ridgely is particularly litigious? Asking for a friend. Also, my parole officer says hi. I don't know about Andrew Ridgely's litigiousness. I'll get back to you on that. Agent Meister, thank you for the super chat. When you're citing the Enterprise reg number, do you say 1701 or 1701, or do you substitute O for 0? I think I usually say 1701. I won't say that I won't claim that I've never said 1701, but I think I usually say 1701. Steve Schmeling says, Stephen G. Clark says, I like to jerk off to cornflakes and graham crackers. You know, we've all got that. We've all got things that turn us on, and I don't think there's any shame in that. As long as it's legal and nobody gets hurt. Steve Schmeling says, what are your feelings on toaster strudels? You know, personally, I like them, but I don't like them as much as Pop-Tarts. I'll let you in on a little secret. The pretense of the short that I have completely rejected Kellogg's products because of the Kellogg's Pep thing. That's just a piece of fiction for the sake of the short. In reality, I have no particular problem with Kellogg's products at all. And I do prefer Pop-Tarts to toaster strudels because I just think Pop-Tarts are easier to eat. You know, they're solid. They're more solid. They're easier to eat with one hand. Toaster strudels are a little soft, but I like it. Yeah, I enjoy toaster strudels. They're good. But if I had to choose, it would be a Pop-Tart. But I will say I don't have either in the house because I don't usually eat breakfast except on the weekends. And when I have breakfast on the weekends, like I cook like, you know, some eggs and maybe have like a toasted bagel or something. I don't usually do Pop-Tarts or toaster pastries of any kind. Let me see here. Here's a super chat from Donovan Eagle. Thank you very much. Says, a bit random, but I have a degree studying the Vikings, and I like to remind people that they were very queer. Example, Odin did gay magic in the myths. Well, I mean, are you sure that's true? Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure being gay was only invented by leftists like 5 years ago. Are you sure? Is there information on that correct? Caillou Seishun Lesu or Yesu says, hi, Steve, longtime watcher. How do you feel about Zorem being apparently told by old school Democrats to tone down his rhetoric? It doesn't surprise me that he's been told that by those people, but I hope he doesn't. I hope he continues to do what he's been doing because it seems like it's successful. And it seems like there is a great appetite for that kind of a Democrat in New York City and all across the country. So I hope he continues to be who he is and who he has been. And I hope he wins. And I hope he proves to those people telling him to tone it down that actually he doesn't have to tone it down, that what he's doing is good and right and is appealing to people. And it's the same kind of thing that they should be doing too. That's what I hope. Boxy Brown asks, do you toast your Pop-Tarts? Usually, not always. I mean, I have eaten and enjoyed them in their natural untoasted state, but I usually do toast them. Yes. Oh, Isaiah Taylor says, not to nag, but did you watch some of that CNN shuttle vid? Pretty cool, right? The waving flag, big letters, uplifting me. I watched a little of it. Yeah, just out of curiosity. No, I agree with you. And I mean, I remember that. Like, I remember watching that. I mean, I don't think I watched that exact thing, back in the day, but I remember those graphics and that sort of aesthetic. I don't really think about it that much, but when you remind me of it, I mean, yeah, it is kind of, I mean, part of it, I guess, is nostalgia. Oh, that's how it used to be. I mean, but yeah, it's interesting. And like I said, things today are so homogenous. It seems like every graphic package of every news channel is just a minor variation on the same theme. John Collins, seen the movie now. My thought was everything I mentioned is living and you said AI isn't sentient. Colbert should move his entire group to free speech TV. What, because he doesn't want anybody to watch? And John Burns with a super chat says, I'm in Miami Beach about to watch a CFL game. Well, good for you. It's okay. I didn't know they play Canadian football in Miami Beach, but good for you. Super chat from DTG. Not sure if this is your wheelhouse, but Babylon 5 is really on the nose right now with our descent into totalitarianism and everything. I love Babylon 5. And yes, that storyline about the fascist takeover of the Earth government. Yeah, it seems awfully relevant, doesn't it? Yeah, unfortunately. Brian Baker with a super chat. Breakfast and masturbation, best way to start your day. The best part of waking up. Siamak, these are fighting words. Siamak says, just saying, seems like your distaste for the changelings in Picard, aside from the general awful, is shockingly similar to canon nerding. Thoughts? No, it's not. It's not. It's not the same thing at all. Because my problem is, it's not a canon issue. Because canonically, changelings and the TNG characters, like they do exist in the same universe. So there's not a canon issue at all. My issue is that it is it's a non sequitur. My issue is that Picard, especially season 3, is a TNG reunion show. It's an extension of Star Trek: The Next Generation. That being the case, I would be perfectly happy if they just didn't do that. But if you're going to do that, if you're going to do a show that is an extension of Star Trek: The Next Generation, then don't have stuff from other Star Trek shows playing a major role in it. The changelings were never a presence on TNG. They were never villains. We have never seen any of the TNG characters, other than Worf, who was also in Deep Space Nine, ever interact with changelings ever. And now suddenly they're the big bad in the TNG reunion show. I think I said at the time when Jason and I were reviewing it, it's like if you did a Superman movie and the main villain was the Joker. Now, I know that Superman has fought the Joker in the comics before, but if you're going to do a big Superman project and then you're going to pull like some fucking villain from a completely different character and put that, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't match that character. And the question is automatically raised in my mind. Well, like, why, what is the point of this? And as far as the canon stuff, another reason I didn't like it is that it felt pandering. It felt like a fan fiction type thing. Like, ooh, let's mix it up. Let's put the TNG cast against the bad guys from Deep Space Nine. That'll be, it seemed like something that they would do in that fucking comic that they're doing for IDW now, where it's like just a fucking toy box comic where it's like, let's get a character from every fucking show and put them on the same ship. And, and they'll fight all the godlike characters from all, it's like, it's fanfic. Is what it felt like. It felt like fanfic. But I reject your suggestion that it is remotely similar to canon fussiness. Super chat from Kirok. Now, Steve, I would argue TNG The Chase has the founder at the end of the episode. It's the same character. I'm willing to bet all gets out. It's not the same character, but I appreciate your little joke there. It's the same actress, obviously. Yeah, JDC. Amanda Plummer was awesome. Amanda Plummer was great. In fact, when she exited the series with 2 episodes to go, I had the very bad feeling that unfortunately was proven correct, that it's all downhill from here. Because even though I did not like the involvement of the changelings at all, I thought her character specifically and her performance for sure was terrific. And as soon as she was gone and it was, let's do the Borg now, I was like, well, there goes whatever lingering interest in this fucking show I had left. You know? Daryl Lett says, anyone know what the record is for most super chats on a 2-hour ask away? I mean, I don't. And you think if anybody would know, it would be me. Owen McDonald. Hey, Owen. Hope you're well. Steve was chatting with someone today about Trump and his BS, and they mentioned your videos on him. You've got some reach. MAGA may be loud, but they aren't the majority. Well, I'm very glad that other people have seen my videos about it. Thanks for telling me. And yes, I agree. That's absolutely right. MAGA is loud, but they are not the majority. That is something we have to remember, and we have to take advantage of. Right? That we outnumber them. It's just that we can't just sit here outnumbering them. Like, we have to put it into action. We have to do something. But yes. Captain says, why no complaints about the several Voyager tie-ins, including an entire main character? I mean, did I say I was okay with that too? I mean, I give 7 of 9 a little bit of a pass because she was like, they introduced her in season 1 of Picard, and I don't necessarily think that she fits in there either, but she was already there, and it was, I mean, it was kind of a mashup. It was season 3 of Picard, but it was also the TNG reunion show. So like 7 was already there. What are you going to do? Just write her out of the show? I mean, she's there. You might as well use her. My problem with 7 wasn't that she, by the time we get to season 3 of Picard, my problem with 7 is not that she's there. My problem is what they do with her, because they take her in the least interesting direction possible. At least when they introduce her in season 1, she's in a really interesting, unexpected spot. Like, she's not in Starfleet. She's not involved with Starfleet at all. She's like off on her own. She's an independent contractor. She's a free agent. She's out on some, frontier area of the galaxy that we've never heard about before. And it's like she's some kind of, vigilante or like independent marshal type person, like bringing law and order to the frontier. Like, it's a really interesting and unexpected place to find her. And I kind of like that. Like, if you're going to bring back a legacy character, at least do something like that where she's just different. And you're like, oh, wow. So, some time has passed since we saw this person, and she's in a very different part of her life that we probably wouldn't have guessed. And it's creative. And what do they do with her? Well, she's back in Starfleet. She's the first officer of some ship. Oh, and hey, guess what? By the end of the series, for some reason, she's the captain of the fucking USS Enterprise. It's the most boring, pandering, fanboyish bullshit they could possibly have done with her. So that's my problem with 7 by the end of the show. Not the fact that she's, a Voyager cast off that was added to the series, but that they made her as boring as they possibly could have when they started her in a much more interesting place. Donovan Eagle says, a more on-point Norse fact, the Havamal, a book of advice by Odin, stanza 127, says, call out evil where you see it. Never let them know peace. I agree with Odin. Odin is 100% right. Member message from Brian Baker. Steve, how many updates do you do on your equipment to produce these videos? Seems like a lot of work. Thanks for the Folgers throwback. Occasionally. I haven't gotten a new main camera for a long time because my main camera that I use to shoot most of my videos is still in really good shape. And it just, it does what I need it to do. So I haven't felt the need to upgrade it or replace it. I could at this point. I think I could afford to invest in a new camera. But I just haven't. But pretty much every other aspect of my production, I've gotten new microphones several times over the years. I've changed up my lighting situation a few times. I've gotten a new green screen. I just got a new green screen this year. It's one of those self-illuminating ones. And once I got used to it, once I figured out like how to integrate it into my production, I really, really like it. So, I mean, and a lot of it is just, I kind of notice things that I want to tweak or I want to fix. Like it's very arbitrary. There's no regular sort of rhyme or reason to it. But yeah, I switch things out and change things up and try different things every so often, to try and make things better or just make things a little different. It's not, and that part really isn't a lot of work. I mean, there are parts of it that are a lot of work, but changing out the equipment every so often doesn't really stress me out. Oh, Stephen G. Clenard had a super chat I missed. Vatican crew should have been Ligonians. I think they should have been Quuzzle Fuzzle Frangians. They should have just made up some alien that we've never heard of before. Queen says, this was fun, guys. Thank you so much, Steve, for the commentary. Have a wonderful day. All of you live long and prosper and all that stuff. Well, thank you very much for being here, Queen. You versus me says, what do you think is the pretentious hipster equivalent of the humble Pop-Tart? I don't know, probably some fucking like homemade breakfast quiche. Something like that. 255 AD says, what's your take on the ContraPoints thing? Is that the ContraPoints is a Zionist thing? I don't know very much about it. I haven't paid much attention. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't paid attention to it. Kara says, a lot of season 3 felt off, like Troy and Riker allowing their son to die. Well, he was ill. He had a disease. I didn't have a problem with that. Like how they allowed him to die. He was sick. I mean, there wasn't anything you could do. They had like a terminal illness. I don't blame that on them. Picard leaving Starfleet because he went to the aid of the Romulans and didn't track. It was not I don't care about that. The Federation I knew. I'm sorry, Car. I just disagree with it. The Federation I knew. I don't fucking care. Oh, did I miss a member message of yours, Kirak? I'm sorry, buddy. I'll go back and find it. Let me see. Here it is. Topic change. NYPD Blue Time. Oh, I'm sorry I missed this one. What was the purpose of Eddie Gibson being promoted? What was the purpose of Stan Hatcher? Wasted potential, I thought. Opinions. I just finished that arc. It does seem like Eddie... It feels like they were sort of aboard. I mean, the Hatcher thing was I thought that was just a planned story arc, and I thought the Hatcher thing was really good, actually. I mean, I felt like they told the story they planned to tell. It was like several episodes, and then it wrapped up and it was over. I thought it was fine. As far as Eddie, as Gibson, like getting promoted and becoming the leader of the squad, it did feel weird that didn't last any longer than it did. Like he wasn't in charge really for very long. It was just part of one season, wasn't it? And then they went with the new. Well, it was going to be Denise Crosby, and then it was Isai Morales, right? And then he was in charge for a couple seasons, and then it was Curry Graham, Lieutenant Bale. He was in charge for the last season, and then at the very end it was Sipowicz. Yeah, the Eddie Gibson being promoted felt. I mean, maybe they only planned for it to be a little while. Maybe it wasn't working for them. Like they just didn't have the dynamic that the writers or the producers wanted. It's hard to tell about stuff like that. But yeah, it did feel like that in particular was a little, aborted. But the Hatcher stuff I thought was fine. I didn't feel like it, ended too soon or anything. Vasil Duca says, hey, Steve, have you ever been told you kind of look like Rick Moranis? No shade whatsoever, just something that occurred to me. Summer of Superman, baby. I don't think I've ever gotten Rick Moranis. I'm not insulted. I love Rick Moranis. I get Dave Attell a lot. People say I look like Dave Attell. I can kind of see it. I don't really think I have a Dave Attell vibe, but I guess just if you imagine me like, completely bald or with the hair shaved down really, really low, maybe with like the beard kind of trimmed so it's just sort of whiskery instead of like a full beard. I guess maybe I can be kind of Dave Attell-ish. But other than that, I don't really see Dave Attell in myself, but I've gotten that from a few people. Paul O'Kelly, do you understand the Irish anger at those 2 pathetic pints of Guinness served toward the end of Strange New World season 2? That never occurred to me. But now that you mention it, I suppose I can understand. Yeah. but it didn't occur to me. But then again, I'm not a very big drinker. I think I've had maybe 1 or 2 pints of Guinness in my entire life. John Burns says, watching Stick on Apple TV with Owen Wilson. Good. And I think I've heard something about that. I haven't watched it, but I'm glad you're enjoying it. Sentai Ranger Donnie says, I wish myself Enterprise G would have been Titan A's sister starship instead of Titan A's new. Yeah, I really didn't like renaming the Titan, especially after the Titan was like the hero ship that helped to save the day, and like their reward. It doesn't make any sense in the story. It makes sense for nerds who wanted to see a new Enterprise. Yay! It doesn't make sense like in the context of why would Starfleet reward this ship that helped to save the galaxy by naming it after another ship? It doesn't make any sense. You would want to celebrate that ship. You would want to glorify that ship and its name, right? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's dumb. It's dumb fanfic writing. Broxy Brown, well, that was harsh. I'm sure Troy and Riker did everything they could. Yeah, the kid was sick, right? 255 AD says, that fanfic idea I laid out last Q&A, I put it in 2159 because I don't think the Federation proper would or should be anti-labor. Thoughts on that? I don't care. I don't have any problem with the Federation being anti-labor if it's for the purpose of a story. Like, I am not married to the Federation being anything in particular. I do think it would be kind of a jarring change if suddenly, like, you depicted them as being, like, you know, overtly dystopian. But writing the Federation in such a way where, like, it has flaws and it has blind spots and it still has problems that it needs to work out, which has been done many times in Star Trek in the past. Like, I have no problem with that at all. So, I mean, if you wanted to write a story about, you know, workers going on strike or there being some kind of labor issue and it took place under the umbrella of the Federation, like, as long as it was a good story and it made sense, you know, on its own terms, I honestly don't care. I am not married to the Federation being a perfect society or Starfleet being a perfect service. I'm perfectly fine writing it in ways that shows that it has flaws and that it has problems, that it, even though it may be better than what we have today by a long shot, that it is still the product of flawed people who have their own blind spots and prejudices and shortcomings, and it reflects that. I not only do I not have a problem with that, I like that, because Star Trek is about us. Star Trek is about our world today, and it should critique our world today. And the best way to do that is to make the Federation or Starfleet or whatever a mirror for our civilization. So I don't have a problem with that at all. John Burns says, watch SCTV to understand the genius of Moranis. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I really look like him, but I'm not insulted by it at all. And Kirak says, okay, now you have to say ludicrous speed. Go. I love that you spelled ludicrous like the rapper. Ludicrous speed. Move, bitch. Get out the way. Is that ludicrous speed? Get out the way. Is that a ludicrous song? I think that's a ludicrous song. Anyway, ludicrous speed. How does he say it? I haven't seen Spaceballs in forever. It's not one of my favorite Mel Brooks movies. Michael Handeline says, does Paramount's recent actions and Skydance's owners saying they plan to move Paramount shows to the right make you worry about the future of Trek at all? Well, yeah. I mean, if that does indeed happen, I mean, yeah, because that's antithetical to the, you know, to all of Star Trek history. So, I mean, of course I would not want to see that happen to Star Trek, because that's never been what Star Trek is. And also, I mean, I don't think anything should be moving. I don't give a fuck what it is, whether it's Star Trek or something brand new. I don't think anything should be moving to the right. I think things have moved far enough to the right, you know, as they are now. Things are way too far to the right. Things need to be shifting radically to the left. That is a Lubrica song. Going through some of these that I've missed. Oh, Some Random Geek. Are you ever going to dance again? Probably not, man. These guilty feet ain't got no rhythm. Now I've got the fucking saxophone in my head. I'm not complaining because I actually love that song. I've got that fucking saxophone in my head now. That's one of those songs. All you got to do is remind me that it exists. And oh, there it goes. And now I'm going to listen to it as soon as the stream is over. And then I'm going to listen to that fucking teddy bear song from Superman again. Let me see. Brian Baker asks, what is your favorite or most liked streaming series or event right now? Whew. I mean, it just wrapped up its season last week, but I would probably say season 2 of Poker Face was my favorite. Recently, I really liked the new season of The Last of Us, but that's been over for a few weeks. Poker Face just ended last week, and I really, really liked season 2 of Poker Face. So I would go with that right now. Oh, Paul O'Kelly, that's a good point. It's bad luck to rename a ship. So renaming the Titan to the... And the other thing is, I mean, what annoys me about it too is like, I mean, look, I love the Enterprise. I love all of the, I love that the Enterprise has become like an important ship. But like, not every ship has to be the Enterprise. Especially since there was an Enterprise in Picard season 3 already. Like they brought back the fucking Enterprise D, which was horseshit because it was gone, but we salvaged it. So don't worry, nerds. We're bringing back the same, like, whatever. It's really fucking pandering fanfic bullshit. But they had that Enterprise. So there was already like a big hero Enterprise in the show. But that wasn't enough. They had to make the other hero ship into an Enterprise too. It's like, Jesus. Did they rename Voyager Enterprise when it came back from the Delta Quadrant? Like, what the fuck is this? Did they renamed the new Defiant. The new Defiant, after the old one was blown up, was the Sao Paulo. They renamed it to be the Defiant. And after they won the Dominion War, did they rename that Defiant the Enterprise? Because I guess all of the great ships have to be called Enterprise, right? It makes no sense. And it's really dumb, the idea that we really like this ship. And it really did us a solid, and it saved the galaxy. So we're going to name it the Enterprise. Like, what the fuck? It's dumb. Steve Schmeling says, about your last trek, actually, everyone addresses McCoy's Vulcan racism, but no one mentions the Vulcans' racism toward humans. Well, but the Vulcans are correct, though. Their racism is... Their racism is objectively correct. No, that's a good point. Because nobody wants to think of Spock as a racist. Thinking of McCoy as a racist is okay. You're like, yeah, he's probably a little racist. But Spock as a racist? No, perish the thought. Stephen G. Clenard, you really don't like some of my taste in music, do you? Captain, there were actually 4 Enterprises. Yeah, if you're talking about just ones that we see on screen, yeah, because they have like the fucking the museum shipyard, right? We're like, oh, look, there's that one and there's that one. So yeah, there are really only 2 that were important. Well, I mean, really, there was only one that was important, and then there was the Titan that was renamed the Enterprise. But yeah, and then there was like the one with the Enterprise F that got blown up that you saw for like 10 seconds. Yeah. Captain says, why wait for the stream to be over? Blast that saxy jam now. Well, but I couldn't play it on the stream because I don't have clearance for the music. And then it would just be me hearing it and you all not getting to hear it. And that would be cruel. And also, if I could play it, then that would be cruel to Stephen G. Clenard, who I don't think likes that song. Yeah, I mean, Sentai Ranger, look, if I want to see the Enterprise D again, I'll watch TNG. You know? Brian Baker. Is Paramount a death trap? A suicide rap? Do we gotta get out while we're young? I hope not. I'm not so young anymore. I don't like to think of myself as old. I don't think I'm old yet, but I'm not as young as Springsteen was when he sang that song the first time. Stephen G. Clenard, Spock is half human, so technically it's self-loathing. There you go. See, that gets him off the hook. Spock has a pass. Spock has a pass. He's half human. Russell Cobb says Vulcans racist or just smug gits? I think it's more that they're smug gits. I don't want to say that they're definitely not racist. I mean, they do have they're a little chauvinistic. Let's put it that way. They're a little chauvinistic. Steve Schmaling. Spock, a racist? What? No. 255 AD says, I've been watching Battlestar Galactica. The first season ends with a person getting shot. Is 2005 the last time before the internet ruined those season cliffhangers? I don't know. I mean, I guess it does seem like season-ending cliffhangers aren't done as often as they used to be. I don't know if the internet had anything to do with that or not. I haven't really thought about it. I mean, Star Trek Strange New Worlds just had one. But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Kirik, I like the Enterprise-y. Boxy Brown says, I need intro and outro music. Yeah, John Burns, I did know that about Garrett Wang. They were going to drop Garrett Wang because when they brought Jerry Ryan in as 7 of 9, the network said, we're not paying for an extra regular. Like you're going to have to boot one of the regular cast members to pay for Jerry Ryan coming on to the show as a full-time character. And yeah, originally they were going to get rid of Harry Kim, but then Garrett Wang made a sexiest people on TV list. And they said, oh, I guess we'll keep him. And they chucked out Kes. So. Oh, 25580. Yeah, oh, you could check to see if the character's actor is on for the next season. Yeah, I suppose in that sense. Yeah. Isaiah Taylor says, the closest I came to seeing a shuttle launch was Endeavour back in 2011, but it got scrubbed and I never saw one. The shuttle is way cooler than that Starship garbage. I love the shuttle, man. Yeah, no, the shuttle was that was the main spacecraft of NASA when I was growing up. I love the shuttle. I mean, I wish that they had something ready to replace it so that we didn't have our current situation. I mean, I think it's fucking embarrassing that, after the shuttle retired, that we haven't had a regular, American, National Space Program, NASA spacecraft taking astronauts up and down, I think it's embarrassing. But no, I love the shuttle. I never got to see a launch live on anything but watching it on TV either. Steven says, yeah, they should have just fucking cleaned house. They should have ejected Neelix and Kes and Tuvok and Harry and Paris. Now, I like my man Tom Paris. I would want to hang on to Tom. I like Tom. Or at least I like him relative to the rest of the cast. I really don't give a shit about any of them. I don't think there's any character on Voyager, if they would have been killed, where I would have been like, oh no, I don't give a shit about any of these people. I don't fucking care. Go ahead, kill them. Go ahead. Yep, didn't care. I don't give a shit. But relatively speaking, I do like Tom. Chipotle. Poor motherfucker. That poor motherfucker. All right. It is after 8:00 here. I'm going to wrap up the stream. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me tonight. before so if you have any final comments or questions for the live chat, go ahead and throw them in, and I will do a final sort of look through before I end the stream for good. But I wanted to do my usual end of the show wrap up here. First of all, if you enjoy my YouTube stuff and you would like to help me continue to do it, the best way to do that is to either become a patron by going to patreon.com/Steve Shives, or by becoming a channel member by clicking the join button here on the YouTube channel or on the YouTube page. Either way, if you become a patron or a channel member at any level, one of the perks you unlock for yourself is you can submit questions for these Ask Away streams ahead of time. And those are the questions that I answer in the first portion of the show. And that is open to all patrons and members at any level of support, from $1 a month on up to however much you want to give me. So please consider that. I could not do this without my patrons and channel members. You all make this possible for me, and I could not be more thankful to you for helping me do this. Because this is my job, and I love it, and I love being able to do it with you and for you. So thank you all so much. Also, if you enjoy my YouTube stuff, you might also enjoy my podcasts. Ensign's Log got a couple of shout outs earlier, which I really appreciate. If you enjoy my Star Trek stuff, you might enjoy the Ensign's Log. The Ensign's Log is a Star Trek themed comedy podcast that I am on alongside Jason Harding and Amanda Billings. We just did our season 7 Q&A live stream last week, and the archived version of that is up on the channel right now if you didn't catch that and you'd like to watch the three of us. Plus Dana was on with us as well as our alumni member of the cast, and it was a really cool live stream where we talked to the chat and answered questions and chatted about the show. And I also do another podcast with Jason that is a movie review podcast called Late Seating. And that is where we take a fresh look at classic films and see if they deserve their reputation, whether the reputation is good or bad. And our most recent episode is our review of a movie that I had never even heard of until we decided to do it. It was a nomination by a patron of the podcast, not one of my patrons, but one of the Let Me Listen podcast patrons. And the movie was the animated rock and roll musical Rock and Rule. And now I can say I have watched it. So you can hear what I and Jason thought of it on the most recent episode of Late Seating. There are links in the description for the podcasts. Check out the podcast. I think you'll enjoy them. Also, don't forget charitylinks.page, which is curated by our friend Some Random Geek, who also shared some more specific links in the chat earlier. If you have a few extra bucks lying around and you would like to help out some people who are in need, who need some help paying the bills or, putting food on the table this month, please consider helping out some of the folks who are linked in charitylinks.page. All right, I think that is it. Now, let me check out the chat and see what final comments or questions people may have. Let me see. Captain says, if you picked up an alto saxophone right now and poorly belted out some careless whisper, you wouldn't ding a single licensing violation. I bet you're right. Paul O'Kelly says, have you ever watched the Irish sport hurling? And would you ever consider doing a reaction to the most amazing sport in the world? The final is on this weekend, and it's going to be amazing. I know what it is. Like, I've seen footage of it. I've never watched it seriously, and I don't really do reaction videos. But it sounds like you're excited about it, and I hope you enjoy it. Geek Link Careless Whisper. There you go, everybody. Go listen to some George Michael. Good, Cara. I'll see you on Wednesday. I hope you're feeling well and we get to see you in the chat. Stephen G. Clark says, I got to go buy some graham crackers. Good for you, man. Live. It's your only life on this earth. Live. Captain says, I vote for Steve singing an excerpt of Careless Whisper himself. I feel like I sing a lot, maybe too much for people. No, I'm not going to sing. I'm not going to sing. Rock and Roll's not a Don Bluth movie. Geek. I think Don Bluth movies are better. 25AD says, how would you feel about a Trek show where we find out the Federation did a genocide and covered it up? If it was a good story, I wouldn't care. I mean, if it was a bad story, my problem with it would be that it was a bad story, not, oh, that's not my federation. Like, yeah, if it was a good story, I think it would be fine. I have no problem with that at all. I know there would be some purists that would be like, I can't believe they did that to the Federation. I don't care. The United States has been party to genocide in the past, hasn't it? Why shouldn't the Federation? If it's a good story, if it's making a good point, if it has interesting characters, if it has something to say that maybe they think the audience needs to hear. I mean, is the Federation wouldn't do that a good enough reason not to tell that story? I don't think so. Sing it like William Shatner with a cigarette. Let me think about it. I'll try to prepare something. I don't know. You guess. It says, do you have a take on Batman the Brave and the Bold? The cartoon, the animated series. I like it. It's fun. I enjoy it. Yeah. 225 AD says because the U.S. sucks. Yeah, and the Federation is an allegory for the U.S. I mean, in part, at least that's part of what it is. It's not the only thing, but it's in large part a metaphor for the U.S. So why shouldn't it suck sometimes too, if that's what it needs to do in order to facilitate a story? All right, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye, folks.